Alright guys, just doing a test to see how this is all working with my screen recorder. First, you open up Adobe Animate. Our projects that we'll be starting in are going to be with ActionScript 3.0. So when you go to open up a new stage in Animate, that's what we'll click on for now. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and by default a stage pops up. It has my tools over here. It has stage, size, color, timeline, properties panel, scene is up here. What we're going to do is kind of work around this interface, get familiar with it a little bit. First is to create a new stage size. By default, it opens up at 550 by 400. So I'm going to go up here to New, and this pops up. We're still in ActionScript 3.0. The width, what I'm going to do is change that to 1080 for our projects. Our height, we'll make that 720. I'm going to keep that in pixels. We're going to be dealing with 24 frames per second. If you have need to alter that later, you can do that per project. So we'll leave that the same. Background color, I'll just leave it as default white. And I'm going to make these settings right here our new default. So I'm going to click Make Default, and I'm going to go right here and click OK. So my new stage pops up here. So this is an Untitled 2 project. I'm going to go ahead and close out Untitled 1. So my page is here now. I'm in at 100%. So what I'm going to do is go to Fit in Window. You'll see how that squeezes everything together. So I can see all the edges of my stage. Now in Adobe Animate, the tools, for whatever reason, are all shoved over here on the right side. Now I'm used to Photoshop and Illustrator, and I'm used to a certain type of layout. So what you could do is take this and shift it over here if you feel like making it a little bit more familiar to you, which I do. So I'm going to take mine and move it right here. This looks and feels a lot more comfortable to me. My timeline shows up down here at the bottom, and that's usually fine. That's okay. Properties panels, anything that you have to deal with, different tools, you'll have different properties will show up here for those tools. So right now we got everything kind of set up the way we like it. One thing you might want to make sure of is you have brushes and tools set up here, and scenes. You can set those up over here on the side by going up to Window and choosing, Scene, and a window will pop up. It might be free out in the middle of your screen like this. You can take that and snap it into place. That way you don't have to deal with moving it around every time or opening it up every time. It'll be right there. There'll be projects that we'll do. We'll build up scenes, and you'll want to switch from one to the other, or edit scenes, or add scenes, or delete scenes, and you can do all of that from right here in this window. Now there's a scene button up here on top, but it will only let you go back and forth between scenes. So you can change the view of your stage by clicking up here and choosing a certain percentage. You can also zoom in and zoom out by using this. You can see as I keep doing that, it keeps zooming further and further in. I can control plus and minus to zoom out and in as well. So those are a few things that help get you comfortable with moving around here in this particular stage setting. Now I have this all set up how I want it. I might eventually like to add more space for my timeline. That way I can control my layers a little bit better. So you can go to in between any panel and find those double arrows, and that means you can click and drag and move that where you want. I prefer my tools to be doubled up like this. If you wanted to, you could scrunch them together and make them stretch the whole length, but I kind of prefer that a little bit better. So you get your workspace the way you want it. What you can do is go to Window and then to Workspaces. and click on New Workspace. And you can do name this your own workspace. I'm just going to call it Custom Animation for now, and click OK. So my workspaces will show up here, and that tells me that I can go from different workspaces. If I want to go back to the original, I can do that, or now I can have my custom animation and it will pop up just the way I want it. So that's it for now, just kind of getting used to setting some of the defaults. I guess if you wanted to, like in Photoshop and Illustrator, you can Control Z to go back a few steps. Let's say you make some mistakes and you wanted to, let's say I start making a big mess here and maybe I didn't like one of these marks or I want to go back a few steps, I can Control Z to undo that. And Photoshop and Illustrator, usually you're set to about like 20 by default, number of times that you can go back and erase a step that way. In Animate, it's set to 100, which is probably plenty enough. So I'm not going to go into changing that because I don't think there's really any need. Everything else here is pretty much set up how we want it to. Next one, we'll go into the use of the different tools. So I'm going to stop my recording now.